Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyze the meta, what's happening over Japan, and how will it impact our one. In today, Japan's meta has finally had a huge shakeup. Certain decks like Raging Bot absolutely dominated the gym challenges right before we get the City Leagues at the end of this week. And a certain one card, people have really started to utilize it. Noctowl is appearing in not just the likes of Palkia and Terrapagos decks, it's appearing in other decks like Charizard and the likes of Raging Bolt as well. Plus, Japan got some brand new cards that are actually legal for the play from the Celerage and Sylveon battle decks. And we're going to break down exactly some certain cards, which is kind of like a little bit like dominating the meta, as Zumo. How will that actually impact it? Granted, this will be out in our November set, but it's also good to have a good insight, plus some brand new cards as well. Just want to say thank you so much for supporting the last video. Apologies for the audio. Hopefully that won't happen again. And let's jump right into the brand new cards got revealed the past few weeks. So we had the new EX Black Kyurem EX, which we haven't had a Black Kyurem EX in quite a long time, so it's definitely a really nice little change and kind of reminds me a lot of the with like Archie stories and having a Black Kyurem is never attacking with this sort of one. Now we have two attacks, Ice Age, which does 90 damage, and the opponent's active Pokemon is a Dragon Pokemon, it is now paralyzed, and Black Frost, which does 250 damage for 4 energies and 30 damage to itself. I could generally see this being a good case in Shenpao, because with Shenpao, it needs 4 range to do 240 damage. This has exact same energy cost, but 250. Granted, you now go to 200 HP yourself, but I think that's a good trade-off. Granted, I believe when this is going to be out, we're going to be near the tail end of Regerdo, but it's going to be a good counter of likes of Dragapult and likes of Raging Bolt, which don't really play a ton of switching cards. So this could be a fun little card. This is definitely more of a bulk sort of artwork card, but I think the artwork's incredible, and I think it could see some play. Another interesting aspect, which I definitely read wrong when I first saw it, is Energy Search Pro. Search your deck for any number of basic energy cards of different types, reveal them, and put them into your hand. But certainly, this is a pretty powerful one. Get all your those energies. I thought immediately it's going to be used in Shenpao, but it's one of every type. So yes, you can get the lightning and water energy, which you'll need for Shenpao, but you can do it for an earthen vessel. This could be good in the likes of the, I think, what's it, the not Farigarath, it's the Graphii, which has lots of energies and discarded. This could also be used seeing some Golden Go to guarantee searching energies and play one of every type to do a huge amount of damage. This could see some play, but again, this could be good in a pre-release, and that's really about it. Quaquaval is very much like the Claydol from back in the 2010 metagame. One up tempo. Once during your turn, you may put a card from your hand, bottom of your deck. If you do, draw into your 5 cards. Yes, this is a pretty powerful draw factor, but it is a stage 2. We still have Bibarel in the format, and if Bibarel rotates, we're most likely going to change it to like some Reverend, which can draw into up to 6. Yes, you have to discard an energy card, but that's going to be very easy, and lots of cards like having decks work with energies and discard power. So this Quaquaval, I think, could not see that much play. If the Quaquaval EX actually saw a bit more competitive play, you also have the good Quaquaval Energy Accelerator, so this could be used, but then effectively you're running 3 Quaquavals, so maybe not as good. This Disruptive Letter could see some play. Your opponent counts as many cards in their hand, then shuffles them at the bottom of their deck. Then they draw that number of cards that you draw. This is really interesting, but also could cause some issues with judges. Basically, you have to be accountable exactly how many cards your opponent has in their hand. So, for example, they have 5. You watch them shuffle it and in the bottom of their deck, and then draw that many number. This could effectively cause some sort of issues as well in the time. But this is a really good disruptive card. This is like Reset Stamp. This is also like Unfair Stamp. I could see this have some play in some controlling aspects, but definitely with this one, you're going to be retrospectively active and know exactly how many cards your opponent has in hand. You have to pretty much acknowledge it before this shuffle, because obviously it takes into account that way. But I think this could see some play. Now I want to talk about some new cards, obviously the gym battle sort of cards as well, which got revealed in the Celerage and Sylveon. They were legal this weekend at gym challenges, and certain card has been very, very popular. That is likes of Azumarill. So when I first saw Azumarill, a lot of people were like, it's fine, but it has an attack which was 4 psychic energies, 230 damage, and 50 to itself. This is obviously pretty powerful stuff, but it obviously has this ability, which if you have a Terra Pokemon in play, you can attack for 1 psychic. This is incredibly powerful. All of a sudden you have 120 HP and you're hitting 230 damage for 1 psychic energy. One of the big sort of common Terra Pokemon, which a lot of people are going to play to utilize in Noctowl, is that Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon. This is really good for that stalling aspect, as lots of Pokemon have abilities as their main attacker of choice. So I do think that having this is one of the best sort of attacking options as well. One of the things I like, because we look at quite a few ones, is really utilizing like some Noctowl, getting the key pieces you might really acquire. Because you're going to be using this one and it could be as fun and destructive as possible because you're a single prize attacker, why not play the likes of Countercatcher and likes of Pokemon Catcher, getting some few flips, and we've seen how effective it can be. You can like bring up the likes of a Serendipity or other sort of Terra Pokemon on the bench, like Terrapagos, and get a big one-hit KO. What I like of Vitality Band is to hit that 240 damage, which is kind of like a big magic number as well, as that could be like effectively the biggest sort of HP for these basic EX Pokemon. I love the neutrality zone as well as a stadium card, not to be damaged by any Pokemon rule boxes. I also love having the Area Zero Underpass. You have this massive sort of bench because you've got to have at least 2 cornerstone Ogerpon. You want to get any cards you want with the likes of Noctowl, and having another attacker like a Bloodmost unit is really strong. Granted, I do not know how competitive this could be, but lots of people are really enjoying this. And it's not just on its own, it could be utilized in likes of Dragapult as another attacking option. This could be a really good, because I know you play Radiant Charizard, and Radiant Charizard is still a very good attacking option, which could be a good Terra one, but some what's not Terra, Radiant Pokemon, but some people like to play Radiant Alakazam now to actually hit the big magic numbers. But having a 1-1 like sort of a Zumo, and yes, I know it can be quite difficult because if they have a mirror on the bench, they're obviously going to target this one. But 230 damage for 1 psychic energy, you're already around psychic. It's very, very powerful. Obviously, you can move around some damage counters, you can place them around with Dragapult, and you can get these big one-hit KOs, which I really, really like. Another thing I really like about the sort of Dragapult list is it does play that Terra Orb, which is obviously new, which guarantees you search your deck for a Terra Pokemon. Third Ball as well, which has seen quite a bit of play in the likes of decks which around Pidgeot, especially with the likes of Noctowl, because it's guaranteed search. It's sort of like it's like a quick search for a Pidgeot, and I really, really like that. So you guarantee you can get them Pidgeot from one Noctowl, which is a pretty good, powerful strategy. This is very fun, but you can also play it likes with Duskull and Dusknoir and kind of get these big one-hit KOs all the time. Granted, this isn't playing the good sort of Azumarill, but again, it's still fun to see that we are seeing Azumarill have some love as well, and effectively can do these big, massive damage. So, another one which I've seen in a lot of success is Ceruledge. Now, Ceruledge is this really interesting new Terra Pokemon, which obviously was the focus point, which does more damage to the amount of energies you have in discard pile. And this deck plays a ton of discardability. Obviously, you play Squawkabilly, you play the likes of the Earthen Vessel, you play the new Ace spec, which you can start 5 cards from your deck. You play Greninja, you play Ultra Ball, you play Research, you play Carmine. Let's go rank up to do a huge amount of damage in the late game. Granted, only needs 1 energy, and it effectively is a stage 1, so it's very, very easy to get this set up and powered up as well. So I do think this is a very, very fun sort of niche deck, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later because this has actually seen a lot of hype. Granted, we did see the likes of Trapagos, as you remember what we talked about last week. They like to play the hot new sort of ticket items. This actually has some compatibility. It could be similar to like some of Hydrapple, where you play a ton of energies, all of them in discard pile, and ramp up to more and more damage every single turn. But that's not the only other new sort of key card. Obviously, the likes of Sylveon as well have some sort of play as well. But most people have really been having its home in the Lost Box style deck, because I do think that works the best. Yes, you have the Glass Trumpet, which can power up to the EVs, but with having access to Mirage Gate, you can power up a Sylveon as well. That amazing attack, which can pretty much shuffle 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, which I think is really, really good for the disruptive capability. But also you have the really good other attackers. Iron Thorns for that disruptive capability. No Iron Hands, but that's absolutely fine, because I think Iron Thorns, especially after the World Championships and how the meta is developed, is a really good counter argument to the meta right now. I think Blood Moon Earthluna and the likes of Roy Moon are another really good attackers as well. Do we think one-hit KO potential and have a ton of HP? Obviously, still having the classics of Lost Box style decks like Sableye and Cramorant, I think it's really, really strong. Now, the only issue with having Lost Box is obviously the scare of Kyurem. Obviously, Regidrago in Worlds was 25% of meta. We're about to see in the next few weeks how the meta is going to happen when we get the Champions League over in Japan. So it could be really intrigued about how the meta is really kind of progressing. But also what I love about this one, you can still play Crispin as well. You have Mirage and Crispin as well to energy accelerate to a Sylveon. I do think Lost Zone is still there, and this could be the saving grace to bring it back into the metagame. So that's something to definitely be considered about. We're looking into our November set, which is really nice to have that insight before we get Stellar Crown. But as you know, Stellar Crown is out next week, so let's actually see what is actually the best of archetypes going right now. We can see it did have a little bit of a shake-up over in Japan. Like I mentioned before, Japan's metagame is definitely changing a lot from where we've kind of been. The last 2 dominant archetypes in their format didn't really translate over, the likes of Charizard and Dragapult, respectively. But right now in Tier 1, they're the most played archetypes, the ones that win the most gym challenges, are the likes of Raging Bolt, Charizard, and Dragapult. These decks have been absolutely dominantly, and the likes of Raging Bolt is now kind of Players are used to realizing that they can play like some Noctowl because they play a ton of Ogerpon. It's really, really powerful, and you can draw a ton of cards and get your side pretty much guaranteed every single turn. Like the Charizard and Dragapult, they really utilize the likes of Briar very well. Dragapult gain the likes of Sparkling Crystal and Crispin, which are obviously really good attacking options to kind of like so you can attack for a lot less, but also still has that Briar, so you can take that additional more price card. Charizard has kind of like gone to this more checkmakey sort of situation. I did a lot of testing yesterday with my good friend Justin, and we talked a lot about the scariness of Charizard, and pretty much played lots of different decks around the Gauntlet about Zard. And the amount of times you play around the Briar, because you're really scared once you get to 4 prizes, how much Charizard can really utilize and get to that those 2 prizes and take a 3 prize sort of turn, sometimes even 4 with the likes of Dusknoir. The rest of the AT, like the tier 2, it's definitely a big range. Likes of Gardevoir, Regerdo, Lugia, Sterilite has kind of jumped up there, Rory Moon and Palkia. Rory Moon, again, hasn't really changed anything at all since the World sort of finalist list, so there isn't too much to talk about with that one. But likes of Gardevoir has really changed a little bit by adding in the likes of the Moonlit Hill Stadium card. Get that additional healing factor in. Yes, I know you're already playing the likes of Monkey Dory to move around your damage counters, but you're not playing Cresselia, and I do think having this Moonlit Hill guarantees you can fuel up your ability, but also gets that little additional heal. Golden Go is also there, but it's kind of always there. People really love playing it in Japan, but you know what? Let's now break down exactly. Let's look at some of these new lists in Stellar Crown. People are very excited about this new set, and I am too. It really does change a lot. So what exactly does some of these top key archetypes really gain or change the meta game? So like I mentioned before with the likes of Raging Bolt and mentioned with it, Noctowl is a really good inclusion in the archetype. Because it's so powerful, especially because you're playing Ogerpon as well, this deck as well has a lot of inbuilt draw factor, likes of Greninja, likes of Serendipity, Ogerpon as well, so you always have that guaranteed draw factor, but what about guaranteed searching for cards? That's where Noctowl really helps you. It gets you your Earthen Vessel to get some energy cards, it gets you your Energy Retrieval, it gets you a Superior. It also can get you like some Glass Trumpet, because you already have an Ogerpon in play. You can Glass Trumpet, get some energies out from your deck and attach them to your likes of Ogerpon and Squawkabilly, which I really am a big fan of this one. You can also, in your Charizard matchup, really help having Briar. Mostly, they always could go 2/2/2 Charizards to get their prize cards, unless they knock their Dusknoir as well to like odd even the prize trade. But you can have the Briar and really capitalize that one to make sure your Ogerpon can take 3 prizes near the end game, which I absolutely love. I think this is a really interesting way about how Raging Bolt has really developed over time. Yes, you can play it without with Noctowl, but I think Noctowl is so powerful. You play the areas you're underpass, server likes the Pokestop, but I think you're in a good trade-off. I feel like having a larger bench size, gain all the cards as well, and I guarantee you can get any of the key item cards, your key Sardas, your key Briars for turn, sometimes even that like Dusty, which you really require. I really like how Raging Bolt has really developed, and I generally think this could be the best way to play it going forward. Another one is Charizard, and we've seen this one see quite a bit of play. This is very similar to, like I mentioned before, Justin's one, with having the Thornton. And Thornton, I think, is a really good inclusion because it can bring out a Dusknoir out of nowhere. It can bring out your Charizard, it can bring out a Radiant Zard, or something even just remove any liabilities like your Rotons and change them into attackers, which I really am a big fan of this one. One of the things I still love is still plays that Briar because it's such a powerful card in Zard. Because you can easily go from like having 2 prizes to winning the game straight away. From having a Dusknoir to like bump some Pokemon, whether it be take a knockout or put the right amount of damage counters you need to do, make your opponent go to 2 prizes, and then also sweep the board state that way, which is really good. I do think that sometimes people are playing likes of Noctowl or even Pidgeot and Bibarel as well to have them inbuilt draw factors, but there's also Noctowl as well to kind of like get, like I mentioned before, you can get the Candy, you can get, if you play Furball, you get the Pidgeot as well, you can get any of your key cards you might really require. There are definitely some counts in here which I may not agree with times, but I do really like this style of archetype. If you are intrigued about how Zard is really going with this one, or what A-Spec you're playing Zard, if you just look at Poké you can see it's playing at least nearly every single A-Spec under the sun. I still am a huge fan of Unfair Stamp, just have that disruptive capability, but Prime Catcher is becoming more and more likely in Zard because how strong it really can be. You can even play Max Bot as well, especially with the likes of Briar as well, because that really works in that way, especially in the mirror match as well. So definitely Zard is going to be on the rise, so definitely something to be aware of going into this new format. And last one of these big tier 1 archetypes is the likes of Dragapult. We mentioned a little bit before with a Zumo, and this one here is still just as aggressive and scary. You do play it similar to the likes of Charizard with the Pidgeot, with the Rotom, with the Arven counts as well, but also you can play new cards like the Sparkling Crystal and Crispin to get some energy acceleration onto the board, or even Dragapult attacking for 1 energy. We've already seen it do really well with secondary attackers like that brand new Azumarill to do 230 damage out of nowhere. But again, we're still playing the Dusknoir, I would say there's an argument to put the likes of a Radiant Alakazam or even a Radiant Charizard as your Radiant card of choice, whether it's to do a huge amount of damage capability, but also a way to move around some damage counters as well. It's really, really strong. I'm a big fan about Dragapult. I really hope it finally has time to shine in our new metagame. There is so many stuff going towards it about how powerful it could be, but is it just too many one-of cards to really like make this deck function? We've already seen how strong Pidgeot is. We already know Japan really favors the Zatu build over Pidgeot. So could we see this translate really happen over entire metagame? Now looking at the other sub decks as well, Gardevoir as well, I've seen a little bit of that change. Like I mentioned, well, playing that Moonlit Hill, and it's not like I was looking at multiple lists over the past weekend and went, no, it's not on one list. I was seeing dozens of archetypes playing the Moonlit Hill as a main stadium card of choice. I really like it, especially for that healing factor. It does obviously ruin some of your attacking options, like your Drifloon, like your Screamtail, but also it helps you heal so many stuff. If you are really scared of Kyurem and you're going to have multiple damage to a Pokemon and you want to protect them sometimes with the likes of your Bravery Charm, kind of like getting additional healing factor is really good. You also gain energy on Discopile, so you're fueling up your Gardevoir to get additional more the attacks of rolling with the likes of Drifloon, Screamtail, or even just moving some damage counts around with Monkey Dory. Again, we're still playing the Futtermane and Klefki. I just think having as much disruptive as possible, especially if Iron Hand is going to be one of the biggest threats right now in the metagame. Most of it is still not really changed too much, but definitely Moonlit Hill is a really interesting one. Do you agree that this is the best sort of stadium card to be playing Gardevoir? Has this time like come and gone? And do you actually think this is a wasted card? I would love to hear your arguments over in the comments down below. Now to get Regidrago, and if you didn't know, last week I did post my latest mastery video with Regidrago. I put quite a bit of time in understanding and talking to exactly the pros and cons of Regidrago, so I really appreciate it if you check that out. But this list here has done a little change since sort of World Championships and going to Stellar Crown. It didn't really gain anything, but we're seeing more and more cards playing like some Thornton. I think Thornton is a really good card, especially in Regidrago, because you're removing your swap ability, you're removing your Mew EX sometimes, or sometimes even just moving a Hawlucha and just swapping it to a Regidrago or even an Ogerpon. It's really powerful. But also in certain decks, make sure you can bring like a Kyurem out of nowhere. I really like that, so especially if you use a Regidrago, you can get a Prime Catcher sort of in play. Thornton, put one of your Squawkabilly or what's it, Hawlucha into Kyurem from your discard pile, attack, and they can win that way, which I think is a really good inclusion. Another thing I really like, this one still plays Jamming Tower. People are scared of lots of tool cards as well, especially can help you in the likes of your Raging Bolt, because they are just out of reach if you can't get your Hawlucha and Gusting Effect over. So that's definitely a good sort of inclusion to have in that sort of matchup wise. Not too much to say about Regidrago. I still consider this to be one of the strongest decks right now in the metagame going forward. But again, I think there are some other decks like Charizard can actually overcome this one from having the Briar and stuff like that. But it is still a very scary, very dominant archetype, and especially when we come up to we have US regionals next weekend. The weekend after that we have Japan, and the weekend after that we have Dortmund. So we're going to see a lot of events coming up in the next few weekends, and actually see how dominant this deck can really kind of keep up with it as an ever-changing meta. Number one is Lugia, and Lugia, this list here really stood out to me because I think it's a very interesting one. It's gone back to the 60 HP Minchinos, which again is very interesting as Japan obviously favors Dragapult quite a lot, and obviously it's not just in Dragapult, it's also in the likes of Regidrago, but also plays the Area Zero Underpass, Thornton, and a 2/2 line of Noctowl. Now I really like the Noctowl because I'm a big believer and big fan of the Wellspring Ogerpon. I think it's a really good attacking option. Having kind of gained basically your own version of Radiant Greninja, you shuffle back in the Legacy Energy. It's such a powerful sort of attacking option. So definitely option to play two of these as well. So you can kind of have this big, massive board state. That's one of the things that Lugia really struggles with. If you're going to be utilizing lots of your support Pokemon, you could potentially have a Futtermane out in the active spot. So you can go through the likes of Iron Thorn, so it's not a bad matchup. You've got to be using your Luminions, you've got to be using your Lugia just to get out your Archeops. So effectively, you can, with the likes of an Ogerpons out in play and the likes of your Area Zero Underpass, you can have this massive board state as well. You can change some certain liabilities with Thornton. You can bring back your Ogerpons. You can bring back your Iron Hands. You can bring back your Blood Moon Earth Luna. There are so many really interesting things about this deck. One thing I also like is really good is like your Futtermane. It may have done its work, and also you can change it to one of your attackers. It's so powerful. I think this could be a really interesting way of how Lugia could be really developed. And that's one of the things which I love about this. Will this translate into the City Leagues? Could we actually see this be the best way to play Lugia? But I think it just shows the power of Noctowl. I think that's a really good strategy. You can cut down your Luminion, but you can get any of your item cards as well. You can get the Fortune, you can get the Jack, plus Ultra Ball, to guaranteeing the likes of your Lugia V-Star with the Archetypes in play, which I am a huge, huge fan. And last big list I want to talk about is Palkia. I really, really like Palkia. I did wide large Palkia testing yesterday with Justin, and I've generally come to consensus that Palkia is definitely one of the best utilizers of Trapagos. Still, Zoroark I think is also really, really strong as well. But I think how much Noctowl does to the deck is so, so good. Kind of like getting any sort of cards you might need to have makes Palkia so good. Having the Earthen Vessel is really, really powerful. You can search your deck for your item cards you might need. It has such great synergy with like some Irida. You could be so aggressive like so on Pokemon Professor's Research. You also have Glass Trumpet like Energy Accelerate if you want to attack with the likes of Trapagos much earlier on, or even Shen Power to get some energies out and play. You also have Rotom Fan, which can get your Bidoof, you can get your Hootoots. One thing I think is really good is having a split between the Wellspring Ogerpon and Trapagos. If you're playing Trapagos, you either need to play the Glass Trumpet or you need to be playing the DTE, because you want to guarantee an attack with this one, and effectively you can't go attach because that's much, much slower. That's the weird thing about Palkia. You want to use your subspace with multiple energies out and play. I think this is a really good way about a good starting brick. How Palkia is kind of going to be developed in the metagame. I'm a big fan. I think Palkia has a lot of synergy. With Iron Thorns being as powerful as it is, and like some Miraidon obviously dominating tournaments, that's definitely something to be a bit more wary about. Miraidon's success hasn't really translated over to Japan's metagame, but definitely something to be a bit wary about going into our metagame as well. Because as much as I love Palkia, and I'm a huge, huge believer of this one, having that lightning weakness and having your ability shut up by Iron Thorns can be very, very devastating to your gameplay. So, just looking ahead, is Noctowl the best search card right now in the metagame? I generally think so. I was absolutely shocked when I was testing lots of Noctowl, how good it truly is. And it's just so good in so many situations. I played it in Zoroark, I played it in regular Trapagos, we saw it in Charizard, we saw it in Palkia. It's such a powerful synergy. We see it in the likes of Raging Bolt and Lugia, which we wouldn't even thought it would today. But I think it just works so well because these are very, very combo-reliant decks and just unlocks it so much potentiality. Could Azumarill see more play? I'm a big fan of this Azumarill. 230 damage for 1 energy if you have a Terra Broken in play. This is absolutely broken and so, so fun. So I really hope this Azumarill will actually continue its love and success because it is so powerful. And also, who uses Trapagos the best? Obviously, we've seen it on its own. We saw Andrew Mahone play it with VM Dusknoir. I did play test a little bit of that version of the deck. I wasn't exactly blown away by it, but I could really see the synergy work with this one. And I think having the likes of that Trapagos with the Dusknoir is a really good combo piece. But I've also played it with Palkia, I played it with Zoroark. It can be used in so many different archetypes. It can even be used in some energy switches and Glass Trumpet. There are so many good synergies with Trapagos. I'm really excited to see where the meta is actually going to be developing with this one. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have, please make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out my Regerdo mastering video from last week. And thank you again so much for support on the last video. It truly does mean the world to me. I'm going to be back in a few days' time. I'm going to start posting some of the deck profiles of my shorts. And then next week, we'll look at the best rogue archetypes and the best meta decks of Stellar Crown, just getting ready for Dortmund Regionals in just a few weeks' time. My name is TCG, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Enjoy the rest of your day.